I am Lovely Joy T. Patadlas. Today I'm gonna discuss about the Japanese occupation of Moroland and its aftermath. So, the objective of this module. At the end of the module, the student should be able to answer the following question. First, what was the condition of Moroland during the Japanese occupation? Second, what were the people's reaction to the Japanese occupation? Third, what was the impact of Japanese occupation on Moroland and its people? So, today we will start our discussion about the Japanese occupation of Moroland and its aftermath. So in 1941, the existence of the Commonwealth government would be interrupted by the outbreak of the World War II. President Quezon and other key officials of the Commonwealth government would leave the Philippines for Australia and eventually for the United States. Therefore, Quezon would continue serving as president of the jury government while a Japanese-sponsored republic was being set up headed by President Jose P. Laurel. So Asian countries were being colonized by various Western colonizers. Therefore, in the Japanese perspective, it would be better to expel than Western and liberate Asian from Western domination. Japan, in other words, saw herself as a leader of a self-proclaimed mandate of Asian liberation. So in the process, the Japanese would find themselves invading various Asian countries and struggling to expel Westerners and to place themselves as the Asian colonizer of the various Asian countries. So let's start the question number 1. What was the condition of Moroland during the Japanese occupation? So in Moroland, World War II would start with the Japanese invasion of Davao and Holo in December 1941. 4 months later, April 1942, Cotabato and Lana would also be invaded. The occupation of this place was meant to provide air bases for the eventual thrust and penetration of Japanese forces into Borneo and Celebes. So it was reported that most of Mindanao was dominated by Moro, Filipino, and American guerrilla forces during the Japanese occupation. So the Moro Muslim nearly exterminated all occupying Japanese soldiers in Sulu before the return of the American, and the Japanese were constantly attacked by the Muslim guerrillas. So question number 3. What were the people's reaction to the Japanese occupation? So, the initial reaction of people in Moroland on the day of Japanese invasion was a mixture of fear, surprise, and shock. In fact, the landing forces of Japan only met a very weak resistance. The fighting lasted only about 2 hours, and they are aware of the development of the war in other parts of the Asian country, so they never thought that they will directly involved in it. They could not imagine that the war would reach their place and on Christmas Eve. So the Moro leader who thought it was better to cooperate with the Japanese than to suffer the new colonizer wrath and cruelty. So the Japanese time and resources were limited to sustain this effort, so it yielded no permanent result. So if there was one thing that the Japanese achieved during their occupation on Moroland, it was the guarded and enthusiastic obedience of Moros living in occupied towns. So the question number 3. What was the impact of Japan's occupation on Moroland and its people? So many Muslims found satisfaction in fighting side by side with Christians against a common invader and so participating in defense of the Philippines. Second, the war damage, payment or back pay award to many Moros officially recognized as former guerrillas resulted in significant increase of money dwelt in Moroland. Third, suffered great loss of life and tremendous physical destruction by the time the war was over. An estimated 527,000 Filipinos, both military and civilian, had been killed. So, although the Japanese occupation left a painful mark in their lives of Filipinos, the arrival of the Allied forces set a different tone, said Bernardita Valenzuela, 90, a member of board of Leyte Metropolitan Water District. You should never ever forget it. That is the major event in history of our country. So, lesson learned and peace message of this topic. So, the Second World War demonstrated that Filipino of whatever beliefs, position, or affiliation could work together toward common aims and objectives. So, Moors and Christians can work together to protect their independence and territory if properly motivated and proper by similar ambition and goals. The Mindanao problem, for example, can only be resolved if all parties, including Moros, Christians, and Lumad, share the beliefs that under a new governmental entity, no one will be left behind or discriminated against. All sectors will benefit from exclusive economic growth and development under a system of peace, harmony, equality, and justice. So that's all. Thank you.